A pretty high school student, Ha-N-I-O, lives with her widowed father, Ki-Dong-Oh, who runs a modest noodle restaurant. She is sweet and innocent, but isn't too swift in the grades department. She has a massive crush on a young man in her school named Seung-Jo Baek, an aloof senior who has an IQ of 200 and is so smart. He rarely ever has to study for tests, always coming in first in everything. He can basically pick whatever college he wants, whereas it's doubtful Ha-N-I will even be able to qualify for any college. She has two best friends who are her almost constant companions, and privy to all her fantasies about Seung-Jo. One is a bookworm named Min-Ah and the other is a chubby girl who loves to cut people's hair, named Ju-Ri. They are always encouraging to Ha-N-I, since they've all been friends since childhood. One day a student asks Ha-N-I to do her usual talent routine of using her foot to bring down a soda can that is stuck in a vending machine, and the soda can is for Seung-Jo, who does seem impressed by her crazy, flawless technique. However, Seung-Jo also quickly figures out that Ha-N-I is obsessed with him, especially when she sticks a love letter into his locker. In his initial amusement at its discovery, thinking this weak student is unworthy of his keen mind and interest, he only grades it for her spelling and grammar mistakes and hands it back to her. Ha-N-I tries to escape the ordeal, but then a supportive teacher suggests that Seung-Jo tutor Ha-N-I so that her grades can improve. If Ha-N-I can make the 50th position in academic standing, then Seung-Jo will have to piggyback her around the school property, in entire view of the student body. In a very funny dinner scene at the home of Ha-N-I and her father, suddenly the entire house starts shaking. There had been an earthquake at the same time Jun-gu had banged his head, and only Ha-Ni's house on the street is destroyed. Ha-Ni's father tells her they've been invited to stay temporarily at the home of his childhood best friend, Soo-chong Baek, and his spirited, happy homemaker wife Jim-hee Hwang, but this Baek household turns out to be the very same home where Seung-Jo Baek lives. This couple are his parents. Ha-N-I is aghast to see him come out of the house, and Seung-Jo seems none too pleased to see her, but there is nothing he can do. His mother has always wanted a daughter and immediately adopts Ha-N-I as her own. So suddenly Ha-N-I is living with the young man who disdains her, who she's had a crush on for 4 years, sharing a bathroom with him, having family meals together, and his bedroom is nearby to hers, so they are constantly running into each other. He has to double up with his younger brother, an attention-seeking whippersnapper named Eun-jo. Though he still finds her annoying, there are chinks that are beginning to appear in his armor, due to Ha-Ni's almost miraculous sweetness and patience in the face of any problems. Then Ha-N-I really proves her worth as a person to Seung-Jo when the new student academic rankings are finally announced on a wall at the school, and Ha-N-I actually ranks at the cutoff mark, number 50. But Ha-N-I had raced to the board first to see what Seung-Jo's score was, and didn't even think to look at her own. She congratulates him and applauds him, and he says coyly, "Didn't you see your own score? Look again." So she goes back and notices with shock where she had placed all her hard work had paid off. As is usual with Ha-N-I, the first thing on her mind had been Seung-Jo's well-being and his scoring, not her own, and it's become very clear to him now. Seung-Jo has to keep his promise and piggyback Ha-N-I around the high school campus. On high school graduation night it becomes obvious that Seung-Jo has become a bit possessive of Ha-Ni's attention. He doesn't want to take pictures with anyone but her. When she says she will start to move away from him now and give him more freedom, he backs her into a corner and kisses her, knowing this will confuse her and keep her hopes up that he will actually declare himself to her shortly. Seung-Jo even gives up going to a more prestigious college, just to be able to attend the same lower-level college as Ha-N-I. All this from a young man who just a few weeks earlier had scorned her completely. Just so that she could buy him a graduation gift, but of course he doesn't say anything to her about his feelings. Only once in a while does Ha-N-I receive a real glimmer of hope that he actually cares for her. His mother tells him that the human heart is not like a math problem, with only one answer. The brilliant student has to stop and think about that one for a while. Once in college together, Ha-N-I will still do anything to stay close to Seung-Jo. She even offers to clean up the tennis balls on the courts every day, just because Seung-Jo has joined the tennis team. Then the daughter of a rich businessman, Hae-ra Yoon arrives on campus and tries to insinuate herself into Seung-jo's life. This unsettles Ha-eun, especially when Seung-jo announces he will not fall in line with his mother's fondest ambition to see him married to Ha-eun. He wants some freedom and independence of his own, to find his own way in life. He leaves home, gets his first part-time job as a waiter, his first little flat, and weeks go by where he doesn't see Ha-eun and she doesn't see him. Then she discovers where he is working, visits the restaurant, becomes ill, and he ends up taking her to his little apartment for the night to watch over her. Ha-eun is much encouraged by these developments, Seung-jo sneaking a kiss as Ha-eun falls asleep outside on a park bench. Seung-jo swears his brother to secrecy, but will a little boy be able to keep such a big secret, that his brother is actually in love with Ha-eun? New challenges arise. Their father becomes ill and is hospitalized, and Seung-jo has to take over his father's game design business, with no experience. The rich girl and Seung-jo has been dating as his father, who wants to be a business partner and proposes that his daughter marries Seung-jo and then he will invest money into the company. Seung-jo actually considers it, thinking that would be a wise thing to do. Besides, he does seem more compatible with the rich girl, but what about his ever-growing, secret feelings for Ha-eun? Meanwhile, Ha-eun, despondent over Seung-jo dating another woman, says okay to a date request from her male friend who has loved her forever, Jun-gu. He had been working as a chef and becoming really good at it, and on this date night, after both of them had such a great time together, he boldly proposes marriage to Ha-eun. She just can't accept him though, and puts him off. Then Seung-jo hears from Ha-eun's friends that she has received a marriage proposal from Jun-gu. That does it. The competitive, jealous nature of this high achiever Seung-jo can't allow another man to steal away what he himself desires. He confronts Ha-eun and kisses her passionately. Finally Ha-eun knows he really does care about her. They enter the family home and Seung-jo surprises everyone with the announcement that he will marry Ha-eun. Jun-gu's reaction: he still loves Ha-eun so deeply, he had such a good heart. Thankfully they do seem to bring in a last-minute new romance interest for him. Instance, Seung-jo doesn't want marriage to be the only thing Ha-eun concentrates on. He wants her to declare a major, to have an interest in life, besides just him. She decides on nursing, because she wants him to try and become a doctor. If they both succeed, they can work together in medicine. The opening theme is the wedding march, performed in an amusing way. Of course they honeymoon on Jeju Island.